تسجيل. إيقاف التسجيل. زر. إيقاف voice over.
Welcome to a special interview for Words Without Borders. My name is Bo Bothwell, and in August I had the chance to speak with Zahar Omarin and Malu Halasa, two of the editors of the new anthology, Syria Speaks, Art and Culture from the Front Line. The book, which comes out in October, includes contributions from dozens of Syrian writers, journalists, poets, photographers, and visual artists living in and outside of Syria. It presents a deep and multifaceted view of Syria's past, present, and future through a sampling of the incredible body of creative culture which has accompanied the momentous and often disastrous changes experienced by Syrians since 2011. The editors of Syria Speaks spoke with me from London.
My name is Zahar Omarin. I'm a Syrian journalist and writer and filmmaker as well. I'm Syrian originally, of course, and I'm living here for last 3 years in the UK. I did my first PA in journalism and media, the second one with theatre studies. I did my MA here in Sussex University in media and cultural studies, and currently I'm doing my PhD in documentary, cinema, and new media.
I'm Malu Halasa. I'm an editor and writer in London. I've been writing about, my books I have a specialist interest in the Middle East. And Syria Speaks is my third edition of Arab Voices. I have an occasional book series called Transit, and I did a book with Maziar Bahari called Transit Tehran, Young Iran and His Inspirations. And in those books, I try to marry very interesting texts, fiction, poetry, reportage, memoir, with art, photography, illustration, cartoons, comic strips. I'm trying to give a wider view of the Middle East than what's normally available, so that people can really see the context of it.
Could you each say a few words about what you were doing before the uprising started in 2011?
Well, for me, actually, I was working in Syria during 2011, and then by the end of 2011, I traveled to the UK to continue my study here, actually. But before, I did some work for independent festivals and culture events like Dogsbox Festival, Dance Festival, and Jazz Festival as well. And beside that, I used to work as a freelancer journalist for a long time.
Before 2011, I was doing books. That's really what I've been up to, and writing. I'm a freelance writer in Britain, and I write for a variety of publications. And I usually do try to have a Middle East focus, a visual focus on the Middle East in my work.
The language that we tend to hear used in conversations about Syria in the US and the UK, at least these days, is the language of civil war and armed conflict. Now, in your introduction to this book, you're very careful with the way you talk about the current situation, trying not to use those words. So I wanted to ask what kind of language you do use to talk about contemporary Syria, and why that choice, or the choices you make, are important.
Actually, it's complicated to discuss that, but also it's as clear for the Syrian as the sky, because in March 2011, apparently, and no discussion about this fact, it was a revolution, a civil revolution against dictatorship, and it stayed as a revolution roughly till the end of 2011. So, but after that, the revolution became like armed revolution, became a conflict. And the revolution itself stayed peaceful movement till the end of 2011, but no one give any support, no one do anything for Syrian, and they left them alone fighting this dictatorship with his well-armed army. So it's later on it turned into armed movement, and later also became a conflict somehow, but a conflict not as the Western media used to discuss or to describe. it's not a civil war, of course, because the civil war got different conditions, and even now with this extremist cancer we have in Syria, it's even not now is a civil war, because most of them, the extremists, non-Syrians and belong to non-Syrian ideology. But the revolution itself is still going on, and this is what we try to focus on in our book. Actually, until now, even with after 3 years of this kind of conflict or war, the people keep doing demonstration, keep doing like civil activities, and they believe in dignity and freedom, but they don't care about others' ideology, others who fight, I mean, in Syria, like jihadi and Qaeda people.
One of the things that was really interesting for me in the book was that I wanted to find out, Zahra was saying that it was, definitely it was a people's revolution from March 2011 to the end of 2011. So what happened? What happened at the end of 2011? In the book, we have an interview. One of the last interviews that Zahra and I did together for the book was with Assad al-Ache, who is quite a very interesting figure. He was working with citizen journalists. He helped to buy equipment. He was outside, so they would send him to buy equipment. But I asked him, I said, it was the ordinary person on the street wanted it to be a peaceful revolution. They wanted change. The first thing they were asking for was political reform. They weren't asking to overthrow the government. And so, so it was something that not only young people were learning about, going to workshops, learning about nonviolent activity and resistance, but it was something that the person on the street, they didn't want to pick up arms. But what happened in December 2011 was that there were, when the military, when the army was entering towns, there were rapes. And these rapes were going on in front of male members of the family. And after that, it was widespread. After that, the ordinary person on the street, they were clamoring for guns.